so much, Elena, for joining us today. After so many back and forth, finally we are here.
I
Thank you
know.
so much for your time.
Sure.
Okay, so can you please share your background and your professional experience with us?
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you, Aditya, for inviting me to this webinar. My name is Iliana Quinonez, and my background is I'm originally from Mexico City. I've been in the high-tech industry for about 20 years or so, a little bit more than that. And I have a bachelor's in science in computer sciences and a master's in information systems. And I've always been in the high-tech environment, both in enterprise companies as well as startups. My current job is at Salesforce. I'm director of solutions engineering there.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
So, Elena, what it's really like being a woman in technology?
I think that's a great question, Aditya. I think one of the first things that come to mind when you think women in tech in general is just that you are in a group of very few people. And that is actually true. As you probably know, the ratio that we have in technology in general, whether that's in high-tech industry or others, is still relatively low. I think we have, in my current company, we have a good ratio. It's about 49 to 51%. So the female ratio is pretty high in general for the company. But then if you go into individual departments in the corporate world, that can go lower. And definitely the representation of women in tech in high-level positions or in the C-level of the executive suite is probably less than 10% at this point. So still not very significant, but it's something that we're all trying to work on. So I'd say representation matters, and that's one of the things that we think about when you say women in tech. I think the other part is that there are not that many women also because there's a problem with the candidate pipeline. So some people say, well, we don't have enough women to kind of like choose from or to select from when we're doing recruitment. I think that's an area that from an educational standpoint, we're trying to change in general, not just us or companies, but the educational system in the US, right? The push for very strong STEM programs, for instance, and initiatives to bring more girls into math and science. It starts early on, and that basically continues throughout elementary school, high school, college, to try to get more women in this space. And then third, which is last but not least, I would say is the fact that it is actually hard, right? If you're a woman in an environment that's mostly male dominated, it has its own challenges, right? It has challenges around inclusion, for instance, around the value of having a diverse gender diversity workforce in the workplace, and just how those women can feel included and do the best job of their lives or the best work of their lives. It's going to be a challenge for them too if they don't have support networks that can help them through that process of adjustment and then really thriving through those positions.
That's great. And what are the most common challenges faced by women to reach leadership roles in both tech and non-tech industries?
Yeah, I would say not just in high-tech industries, Aditya, I think in general, I would probably say a couple of things. One is the issue of a sponsorship, right? When the higher you go in the corporate world, if you're a woman in general, but especially if you're a woman, the more important it becomes to have people that support you, right? And you can have supporters, and that's great, right? You can have your managers who can support you, you can have your peers who will also support you. But to really get to the highest levels, you need a sponsorship. And sponsorship really comes in the form of people who are vested in your success, who are the people who are gonna be talking about you when you're not present in a room, when decisions are being made about, hey, there's this role that's just open, it's a VP level position, it's a C-level position, who should we bring to the table? If you don't have someone who can position you in those situations, it's going to be very hard, right? So looking for a sponsor who has enough level, enough power to make that kind of recommendation is going to be very, very important for women in high tech or in any industry to really get to higher levels in the corporate ladder. The second thing I would say is competence, right? Obviously, the fact that you are in higher positions also means that you need to be competent in what you do. You need to have a good performance, you need to be good at what you do, but you don't need to know or to do it all. So that's something very, very important, right? Competence just means that you know what you're doing, that you may be very good in certain field, but you don't need to know everything, which is a big problem for women, right? When we think about higher positions or a different job or a new project, we tend to be more on the conservative side, trying to say, well, you know, if I don't check all the boxes here, or if I don't know everything that's needed for this new role, I may not be the ideal candidate. And that's very different compared to men, right? Men may be like, you know what, I check 50% of those boxes and I still can do it. I know I can do it. And they go ahead and do it, right? So it's a little bit of self-fulfilling prophecy that if you don't feel confident enough, if you want to be kind of like that perfect match, sometimes those self-imposed rules will prevent us from really advancing in the corporate world too. So on one hand, you have a sponsorship, then you have the self-imposed restrictions or lack of confidence, and the part of the competence piece, right, which is very, very important. And then one additional thing I would say is that in the same way that being confident, being competent, having a sponsor is needed, the other thing is you need a network to support you. The higher you get in the corporate world, also the demands and the requirements compared to your daily personal life are going to be higher. It's going to be a more stressful environment. And remember, when we talk about life-work balance, well, hard to accomplish, right? But if you don't have a network who can support you to get through that balance that you want, that ideal state, it's going to be even harder, right? And when I talk about a network of support, I don't only talk about just in the workplace, right? You have to think about your personal environment. You have a network of support with your partner, with your husband, your wife, with your kids, with people who can take care of your children if you have children. So that's something important that we need to keep in mind. We don't need to do it all, and we don't need to do it alone. And if you are really shooting for the stars, and if you really want to go up the ladder, it's something that you need to work on building that network who's going to be supporting you so that you can reach your goals while at the same time not sacrificing that life-work balance.
That is amazing. Iliana, I have a follow-up question on this. So when you said a sponsor is needed, right, to ensure your success, so how should a woman identify that she's getting right sponsorship from her company? Or in other terms, if I say, what strategy should be adopted to ensure that a woman get sponsorship from, say, managers or senior managers at the right time in career?
Mm-hmm.
So what should be the strategy?
Yeah, it's actually an excellent question, Aditya, because while I would love to say there's a magic formula, there's no magic formula, right? If you want to talk about the sponsors, you're talking about people who are, one, very busy, right, themselves. Two, they are hard to reach and sometimes hard to connect with. And third, they need to see value in sponsoring you, right, in some way, shape, or form. So some strategies or some things that I have seen work in the past are usually those when you're trying to identify a sponsor, try to think about those people that you can add value to, right? If I'm in solutions engineering, right, or if I'm in finance, well, who are the people in my organization who could benefit from a specific skill set that I have, right? If I want to raise my hand for new projects, who has enough power and visibility for which this project could really add a lot of value to? And maybe start identifying those people and start cultivating, or what I call cultivating and nurturing those relationships with those people so that, one, they can first get to know you. Second, they can see the high quality work that you do, so that then you have sort of earned the right to go and ask them for their sponsorship, right? So I think that's one thing I would suggest. Don't just go cold calling everyone, do you want to be my sponsor, right? So it's kind of like get your name out there, build your brand, do good work, let people know what you're doing. Additional value to those people is going to be very critical, very important, and for them to know that you are the one contributing that value to those initiatives, those projects they may have that are critical for them. And then at some point, yeah, openly just say, you know what, hopefully you like my work. I know you're involved in these other projects. I know there are certain opportunities, and if you don't mind, I would love to get your feedback on becoming my sponsor, really helping me better understand how can I get to that position, how could I get to that next level.
Great. Thank you so much. That's very helpful.
Sure.
Okay, my next question is, how do women influence others and group with and without authority?
Yeah, so let's talk about the influence just first, right? Before we say how can you influence someone. So influence talks about the ability or the capacity that people can have to create or effect change in the behavior of others, right? So in the way they behave, or in the way they make decisions, or in the way they think. So you're influencing when you are creating or effecting change to a desired outcome that you may want. So that's the power of influence. That's the essence of influence, right? Now, in order to have that, to get there, there are a few things you need to do, right? Whether it's to a group of people, an individual, whether they have power or not. I think bottom line is you need to create trust. You cannot influence someone who doesn't trust you. So that's one of the first things, right? You need to have some sort of relationship to them. Whether that relationship is formal, informal, is it your peer, is it your manager, is it an extended team you're working with? You need to create that relationship. You need to build trust, right? The other thing is you need to help them see the outcomes from your perspective in a way that it shows a positive result for them or for what they are trying to achieve. So that's something very, very important to keep in mind, right? It's not just affecting change for the sake of affecting change, but it's affecting change to a desired outcome that you want, but that it's also beneficial to the person you want to influence that decision on. So that's very important. I would say don't try to influence someone that you don't know. I mean, you can try, but your chances of being successful at that are not gonna be that great. But if you do know someone and you can start working on that relationship, you can start sharing maybe some points of view that you have, then you can do it in a there are techniques on how to do that too, by the way. You need to be very assertive. You need to come with some authority to it to communicate what you want to influence on. Your verbal communication is as important as your non-verbal communication when you're trying to influence someone, right? It's very important that if I'm trying to communicate something very positive, my body language has to communicate that too, right? I cannot be saying, I'm so excited about this project. I'm be saying it like, I'm very excited about this project. So you're not gonna influence anyone if you do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, learn the facts, learn your data. Data will always support the way you influence others, right? People tend to be influenced by either soft skills or hard data and hard facts, right? So if you have data that can tell a story, absolutely put together that data, build a potential outcome, and then assertively go and present it to someone you already have a relationship with and someone who actually trusts your judgment or your comments already. So that's a great way to doing that. If you do the more soft skill side, you can always do it in a way that people feel connected to you, people feel like you're empathetic to them, you are trying to influence them, but in a very soft manner. Right? So there are other ways you can do about that. You can mirror the language they use. You can mirror the behavior they have. You can use compliments, if you will. I know that's kind of like sometimes bad example, but compliments are always good. Mirroring techniques of the way they communicate and they behave are also things that can help you influence others. But going back to the basics, what I said at the beginning is really what we should all have in mind, which is you can influence people, but you can be successful or not. But to increase your chances of being successful, you need to try to influence people you have already a relationship with and whom you have built trust already before the influencing takes place or before you try to influence them in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
My next question is, what are the important relationships to cultivate, like example, mentors, peers, or with other networking, etc.?
Okay, so I think you're talking about just your network in general. That's going to
To
help.
ensure that you grow.
Exactly. It's going to help you grow your career, your position, anything, right? I would say definitely your close circle first, right? So your peers, your manager's manager, very important. So try to cultivate and develop a relationship with them. I think coaches and mentors and sponsors are very important, but they are different from your peers or your managers, right? Some people think that, oh, my manager is coaching me on certain things. And that's true. A manager can be a coach, but you can also have external coaches that are not related to your job or to your team. Maybe if I'm an engineer, right, and I'm really good at, I don't know, data science, but I do want to know about finance, how data science and artificial intelligence can help someone in finance. Maybe I can try to find someone who can help me understand basic financial concepts in that division in my company, right? So that'll be another way to try to find a coach around that. if, for instance, there's something that if I'm an engineer, if I'm a pre-sales engineer, right, who is very knowledgeable of technology, but who also knows how to sell, so how to position technology for business, and I'm really good at that, but I'm not so good at doing demonstrations of the product. I can't quite get that done well. I know that I can improve in storytelling techniques for my demos, my demonstrations. Well, maybe what I want to do is identify someone in my team or in teams from other segments who are really good at that. They are really good at storytelling, and they can coach me in those specific things that may need improvement and can help me be better at what I'm doing already. So that's the main role of a coach. So when you think about a coach, that's a person who's going to help you improve on something that you're already doing, but you may not be the best at. Okay, that's what a coach does. And that could be your manager, or it could be someone else. A coach will also help you try to learn something new to you that you may need in your job. So that's a role of a coach. Mentors are important too, and it's a different type of person. A mentor is not going to help you necessarily be better at a particular skill set. A mentor is very focused on growth, your personal, your professional growth too, but just think about it in terms of growth, future skill set, things that are related to your potential, things that you may not completely know today, or you may have a glimpse that I may be good at this. A mentor will help you find that skill set, that strength, and will help you with pointers, with guidelines, with sharing his or her experiences, so that you can do your own development of those in those areas, right? So a mentor is focused on growth. A coach is focused more on remedial things or improvement of certain skills that you already have. And then a sponsor, as we have been talking earlier today, sponsor is very important. The sponsor is someone who is not necessarily going to tell you how to improve at your job. It's not going to be someone who is going to be investing a lot of time helping you grow and identify your potential. Instead, it's going to be someone who's going to say, I know who you are, I know what you have done, and I know you're very good at this. So if there's an opportunity, I'm going to position you for that opportunity. That may or may not be your manager, actually. That may be a higher up in a different division who knows about you and what you've done, and who can have access to opportunities and decisions that are made about those opportunities and who should get those. And ideally, is that going to be that person who gives your name to then take over those positions. And then networking in general. That's a very, very important topic for your career, right? For your growth. Networking is super important. Networking, think about it, it's extending the reach of the people you know, right? And there are different tools, different technologies that we're using today. There's LinkedIn, there's the social media platforms, there's our own family networks, our friends network, our social network, physical and digital. But one thing I would like to say is, a lot of people think that having a network or a valuable network is based on the number of connections you have, right? My personal opinion there is, it's great. It's great that you have a lot of people that you know, and it's great that you have in LinkedIn more than whatever, 5,000 people, right, that you know. But the value of your network really is in what kind of response you can get out of those people when you really need something, okay? So if I have 1,000 people that I know, but none of them can get back to me in, I would say, less than 24 hours if I ask a question, that network may not be as valuable as you think, right? If my network includes tons of people that casually I met and they just asked me to connect and I don't even remember who they are, maybe that's not exactly high quality network, right? So when you think about networking, again, focus on my network is as strong as the response I can get from them when I need something, and it's as strong as I cultivate those relationships when I don't need something too. Okay, very, very important. People hate it when you never talk to them, you never connect with them, but when you need something, you're right there asking them. They may be like, well, I mean, I haven't talked to you in what, 5-10 years, and you're asking me to get you a job? Maybe not so good, right? But imagine if you have been cultivating, nurturing that relationship. Maybe if it's LinkedIn, your preferred platform, if you see all those notifications, right, that someone just get a promotion, great. Use the opportunity to celebrate that and congratulate that person. Maybe someone changed jobs, so maybe strike a quick conversation about that. maybe even send your best wishes for that new role, maybe even suggest if there's anything you can help them with in that new role, offer your services for that. Again, you don't necessarily have to think about your network just when you need something. So the way you need to cultivate and nurture your network is also going to be helping you make that network exponentially more valuable. And that's something I would definitely like to stress, right? It's not based on numbers. It's based on the quality of the connections you have in your network and the level of nurturing that you have to deepen those relationships through time or over time.
That is amazing advice, and I totally agree with that. Iliana, I have a follow-up question I hear again. So you mentioned that mentorship and the coaching is very important, and you have been in this technology and leadership roles for quite long time. So what type of resources are available, especially if I talk about, say, Bay Area? So what type of resources are available for women that they can leverage, and especially for the mentorship and the coaching?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very good question, Aditya, and especially relevant nowadays, right? When the topic of women in leadership, female support, lean-in circles are available to everyone. I would say, first of all, if you already are working and you're in a company, I would say lean in your coworkers, your female peers, your women executives. Many of the companies, especially in high tech today, already have programs specifically focused and tailored to women leaders, right? Or to what it's usually called high potential women. So that's women who are high performers, who have potential to really become leaders in their companies, but who may need some additional support, training, sponsorship, right? So I would say the first thing is look at what's available for you in your place of work. If that's something that if you assume you already have a job, right? If you don't, then one thing I would say, if you're a student, for instance, definitely lean into your faculty, your school. Most likely you have peer groups or you have professional groups or associations. So try to join those. Then if you are just a recent grad, totally encourage you to join associations that are in your area, right? And that are related to you, either that's in the business function or the profession that you're in, or based on the geography you're in, or if it's a peer group on your social network as well. Meetups are another great resource to connecting, to finding coaches, finding potential mentors as well. So if you have meetups, if you're here in the Bay Area, absolutely try to attend those. Regardless of what position, what title you have, there's always something for everybody. And I would say, look also beyond just your area, right? If I'm an engineer, I'm gonna be like, oh, I want only the meetups that are engineers from this type of company. I would say, don't limit yourself on that. Sometimes you may find peers, even mentors in the least expected places, right? I've known of several people who have found great mentors, for instance, in their social groups, when they are joining kind of like sports teams, right, in their community. Or if you're religious, just join your church group, right, your community. If you are in a school and you're a recent grad, maybe go and volunteer for those schools, right? And all those activities, just get out there, whether that's in a physical environment or a digital environment. The more groups you can join, the more exposure you have to people, and the more you are exposed to them and they are exposed to you, the better it's going to be, right? The resources are going to be there. Now, there are also associations that are focused on advancing women. So there's an association called AWE, Advancing Women in the Enterprise. That's one. There's the association, if you are in a particular diversity group, usually the Asia Pacific Association of Young Professionals is available for you. If you are a Latino, you can join the Association of Latino Professionals in Accounting, for instance. You can join the Society of Technology or Women in Technology groups, WIT groups. Again, there are a multitude of resources that are available for you. If you want to go the more formal route, I would strongly recommend, if you're in the Bay Area, there are very good programs at UC Berkeley, obviously at Stanford, a lot of the universities that have specific programs that focus on leadership courses. Those may be a little more expensive, but they are available to you, obviously. If you're working, I would totally encourage you to find out if you have tuition reimbursement through your company, which is another great resource, right? on my current company, we have access to, I think on a yearly basis, they give us about $5,000 that we can use for tuition reimbursement. So you can use that for your own training and become better in terms of leadership or your specific field. Again, going back to engineering, data science, cloud-based models, whatever it is that you're starting or trying to get better at. And then the last thing I would say is just look at the people that are available to you through your company that really are change agents, right? If you have executives in your company or even professors at your university or past universities who are great speakers, are always speaking in events, in conventions, in associations, try to get close to them, try to strike some sort of connection with them, because you can get invaluable help at different points in your life through those people too.
That's great. Thank you so much, Iliana.
Okay.
My next question is, how do women build resiliency skills and maintain a sense of empowerment in the workplace, even when faced with difficult interpersonal dynamics?
Okay, and I laugh because whenever you say resilience, it's already like negative connotation, right? So resilience basically talks about the ability to bounce back, right, from a difficult situation. So really resilience is, can you really get up your feet, get on your feet again after having gone through a really adverse situation in your personal or professional lives? That's what resilience means. How fast can you bounce back from something negative? How can you build that? I would say it's a combination of several things. And actually, this is one of those when the older you are, the more resilient you become, just by it's the nature of the beast. You have been exposed to probably a lot more negative situations than someone younger. But again, so it is the ability to bounce back really fast. I would say one thing that helps a lot with that is having a positive attitude, right? In spite of all the negativity that a particular situation can bring to your life, whether that's personal or professional, trying to keep a positive mental attitude towards that, it's going to be very, very important. Another thing would be the ability really to center yourself. Not to talk too much about this mindfulness topic that we love talking about in my company and with my peers, but being mindful of what's going on with you, being aware of your reactions, right? When something negative happens, just try to get in tune with yourself, right? It's very hard when you're in a negative situation to be aware of how am I reacting and consciously think about that, but try to make an effort, because in the sense, or as much as you get to know yourself and your reactions when you are facing something very negative, the next time it happens, you will be better prepared to cope with that and to also adjust those reactions that you are having. So I would say self-awareness, trying to be mindful of your reactions, trying to be mindful of what and how that makes you feel, and how and when can you actually start tuning those reactions, right? So to give you an example, if there's a negative situation and you're immediately feeling like, oh my God, this is terrible, I feel totally depressed, totally anxious, physically you're gonna feel bad, you're gonna feel defeated, you're gonna feel like your body is very heavy, and immediately you're gonna crunch your shoulders and you're gonna feel like the world is on my shoulders and it's so heavy, right? So if you're aware of that, try to step by step say, you know what, yeah, this is terrible, but this is going to make me stronger. So having a positive attitude, you know what, I'm not going to feel like that. I'm going to lift that weight from my shoulders. What is the positive thing or the positive outcome I can have from this? And the first thing you should think is there's a learning experience there. Okay, just try to switch it immediately to, yeah, this was a terrible challenge, or I'm in this terrible situation, but it's an opportunity for me for learning, and it's an opportunity for me to grow. Okay, because in as much as I can grow and learn from that experience, the next time I face something similar, then it will be easier. It will be much faster for you to recover. So again, going back to how do you build resilience? I would say having a positive attitude, building self-confidence, working on your self-awareness, working on the kinds of things that will help you recover quickly, whether that's a physical activity. Hey, you know, I feel totally stressed, totally terrible because whatever it is that happened to me, I'm going to go and run 10 miles because I'm a runner. Or I'm going to go and, you know what, I'm going to dance the night away because that always puts me in a really good mood. or I'm going to go and have a really good time with my family. And I'm going to make an effort to really enjoy being with my family, being present. So again, whatever it is that works for you, right, to recover faster from something negative, just be very mindful, very aware of that so that you can practice it more. And the other thing is, I would say you have a lot of opportunity to practice, right? Resilience. Oh my God, you can practice on daily, what I call micro challenges, right? You need to bounce back almost on a daily basis from things that happen to you. Think about it, I don't know, maybe you're a business development representative, right? In a high-tech company, and you have to make, I don't know, 60 calls a day to your prospects, and the first 20 calls all go terrible. You can't contact anyone. Well, maybe at that point, be self-aware of your reaction. This is terrible. You're feeling awful and you have 40 more calls to go and you don't know how those are going to go. Well, guess what? Maybe take a break, go walk around the building, come back, center on the fact that, those 20 went pretty bad, but let's work on the next 10. Let's work on the next 30. It will be better, right? I may change my tone of voice when I contact them. I may try a different tweak to the executives I need to reach out to, but having that positive attitude, being aware, and then taking a physical action to help you recover, right? To make you feel better, that will always help. Some people and some psychologists, not to get too much into the theory of it, but some psychologists say that even by the simple act of laughing and smiling, your brain is going to generate different substances of different chemistry in your body. That's going to immediately help you bounce back faster, okay? I would say I would encourage you to try it, but definitely anything that helps you become more positive when you are facing a negative situation will be helpful in building your resilience. The other thing is you talk about empowerment. So how do you feel empowered? You feel empowered when you feel in control, right? So in many cases, when you're building resilience, resilience happens when you are facing a situation that's really hard for you. And that's usually when you are not in control, right? So when you talk about empowerment, I would say resilience helps you feel still empowered to control your reactions and the way that negative thing that happened can affect your life, right? So you feel empowered when you feel more self-confident that you can control your reactions to something negative that's happening, and that you feel like empowered that you will recover, and this is the way you're gonna act on, or the actions you're gonna take to recover much faster. So I think empowerment is very important, but it doesn't go along without being resilient and having those self-centered, self-awareness practices.
Mm-hmm. And I think this answer is not only applicable just for women, but it's applicable for everyone, especially the first part, how to be resilient and how to overcome the negative situation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, so here's my final question.
Okay.
What's the key to have more women in technology? And I would say, I would also add the leadership roles.
Sure. So that's something we're all working on, Aditya.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say from a corporate perspective, there are big initiatives already, right? In terms of how do we bring more women into the companies, how do we bring more women into leadership. There are specific initiatives around diversity, gender, recruitment, equality, right? All those initiatives that focus on how can we make these numbers better, but how can we also make, when we finally get the women in, how can we make sure that they feel included and that they feel like heard, they feel part of the company, part of the decision-making progress. So I would say one is there are corporate initiatives already that try to address things like recruitment, selection process. I'll give you a couple of examples, for instance. Trying to build a more diverse pool of candidates in whichever position it is that you're hiring in the tech industry is going to be very important. So if you are a hiring manager, I would totally encourage you to say, you know what, I'm not going to make a decision about hiring someone until my talent pool reflects diversity, right? And that may be translated into having women and men, into having people that are not native people from the US, people who are immigrants. That may be something related to the fact that I may have a millennial workforce with people that are older generations. So that's a diverse talent pool. So I would say if you're a hiring manager, definitely try to make an effort to bring those initiatives into your recruitment, your selection process. Some companies are more supportive than others on that, but there are definitely initiatives already around it. I know also there are programs that are focusing on recruitment efforts at the university level. So they are changing the policies there in terms of which are the schools that they usually target. If you talk to some companies who were traditionally just focusing on Ivy League schools, right? That's usually a pretty homogeneous group of people too. But they are trying to expand and have a broader reach in terms of the universities they try to recruit, the location, the geographical locations they are trying to recruit from. So that's another thing. That's more a task for your HR departments, your recruitment departments too. Um, and then there's the educational piece too, right? So it's not just the corporations that have the responsibility to work on increasing women participation in the workplace through recruitment initiatives, through leadership programs for high potential women. It's also the educational system in the US or in the countries that we're a part of, right? Having STEM-oriented programs, having more excitement for kids to really look into science and math and engineering degrees or fields for both boys and girls if you are very young, right? Even us as a society, thinking that if you have a family, if you are a parent today and you have girls, totally encourage them to look at math as an option, right? For even for games, for playtime, for subject areas that they want to develop, tutoring. I mean, math and science, we need to get these girls excited, right? Very hard to include women in the corporate world if they have not been coming with that mindset since early age, right? That talent pool will not exist if we don't start cultivating those mindsets since the very young ages. And I think that's something you probably have seen in the past, I would say 10 years maybe, 10, 15 years, an increased focus on STEM programs on the educational side too. In the US, definitely very strongly. In the Bay Area, very strongly too. Every single school or elementary schools are focused on math programs, math and science for both boys and girls, but special emphasis is in pushing girls towards that discipline. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Iliana, for your time, for sharing your
Sure.
experience and advice. It was wonderful. It was very, very helpful. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you for the invitation and good luck to everyone. Mm-hmm.